I think a highly secure and reliable environment is really like essential for the success of the Cosmos ecosystem. No outside money or no money from investors. That means, yes, of course, you can stick to your philosophy, to your vision, but this means also like it could be very hard at times staying in the active set on mainnet.
Welcome to the Bare Metal Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bare Metal Podcast. Inviting everyone, as usual in these last few episodes, to the Gateway Conference in Prague from 3rd to 5th June. Don't miss out on great speakers and excellent tech content. Today, I've got here with me Rami from Validatus. Welcome, Rami.
Hello, Martin. Nice for having me. Thank you so much.
To begin with, can you tell us a little bit how you guys got started at Validatus?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I would love to step just a bit back in history. So I think around 2017 when a very, very close friend of mine introduced me to the world of blockchain. Back then, like Ismail was working on Tendermint. And I really didn't understand what he essentially was talking about. It didn't have any clue. And I want to understand this technology behind it, the technology of those blockchain consensus engines. And giving my background, my very strong background from times in school, and then being very fortunate like the time thereafter to build knowledge into IT, or to build my knowledge in IT security and essentially in running IT infrastructure, hybrid IT infrastructure, I have seen one of the greatest challenges running like networks or infrastructure in those fields of blockchain. So I took this challenge back then in 2022, founding like Validatus and really starting alone, so as a solopreneur. And this was essentially where Validatus was founded with no outside money or money from investors. And I took care of any kind of business-related topics and infrastructure as well, and focused mainly on how to run from a security point of view a very high reliable and secure infrastructure. And this is how essentially like Validatus was founded.
What was the first network you guys started validating?
Oh yes, so the first network was on Osmosis. And we were very, very lucky to be around on mainnet launch. So Ismail called me, to be honest, to sign like the Genesis. And I didn't understand what to do back then, how to do it. And I just like told Ismail, hey, I think I will just like let the network run for 1-2 hours and then join the mainnet. And this is what happened. So I joined like very early, but unfortunately missed signing the Genesis.
Missed signing the Genesis block. But okay, so Osmosis was your very first network. So to recap, it was just you. You started your very first server. Did you already have like a hosting center, or was the server running in your house? How did you get started?
Oh, yes. So essentially, having this background like from school, really like back from school time, I do have like a own lab back then. That means like infrastructure that, for example, has double DSL lines, backup lines with LTE network, 500 Mbit a second, 2 lines as a backup line. So if power goes down, a diesel generator, for example, so playing around really like back like for years, I do have like this backup for my own lab. So the system was hosted like the first architecture. I think it was like from Zaki. I looked into it and Ismail pointed me to this like discussion on how to run the sentry node and hide the validator behind your sentry nodes. So I was playing around. Validator was like running in my own lab at home. Everything like secured, like from down to power. And then having like the sentry nodes like in data centers. This is like the initial setup, and it was a disaster. So afterwards, I was just like a disaster from the concept. So you need at least 10 sentry nodes to run one validator hiding behind your sentry nodes. And this is due, and still today, to the P2P protocol using like in Tendermint. And it was fun to look into the logs and understand, okay, a lot of like peer connection problems. So essentially, I missed, I think, like 2 or 3 blocks in 1 hour, but still missing those blocks. And keep trying to spin up more sentry nodes behind and before like the validator, and the whole concept. And then this UBHS hardware security module and so on. It was just like, oh guys, are you really serious? You wrote this design, so are you really using it? So months later, I was just like, I don't think they used this design, so I don't think. Yes.
So did you remove the sentry nodes after, or did you reduce the number of sentry nodes that you were using?
Yes. So essentially, we moved like to a different design. So the number of sentry nodes, I reduced the sentry nodes to 5. So this is essentially a 4. This is for backup nodes as well, for seed nodes, public balanced RPC services. You need like for balanced services right now to provide for the Cosmos ecosystem public services. And load balanced public services, you need like a number of like dedicated infrastructure running. So,
all right.
Yes.
So some of those servers are more like public goods services like seeds or RPCs, and only some of them are sentries.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So yes, this is the setup right now.
So before we continue, I got to ask, why did you have such a lab set up at home? Like, what was the original purpose of the lab?
Yes.
Because if you have a diesel generator, that piques my interest.
So from the time in school and all the time thereafter, I was always playing around with IT security concepts. And I think you know what air-gapped systems are. So air-gapped systems are essentially like systems running without any kind of connection, any kind of network connection. So a single running system. And to provide high reliability of this single running system, what do you need? So essentially, any kind of infrastructure you need, from essentially power supply. So this is what you need. You need like redundant hardware, for example. And I was playing around like with those air-gapped systems back then.
Playing around, researching hardware and software. Let's leave it at that. Okay, so that left you with. Let's say a reasonable home setup to begin validating a single network, right? So you were, at the beginning, you were validating Osmosis. It was just you. Did you guys manage to get some stake on Osmosis? That helped you bootstrap your operation, or what happened next? Did you start validating other networks?
Yes. So I was very fortunate. Like Ismail was on this Tendermint core team, and he knows like a lot of people. And to be honest, like a bunch of people helped out Validatus to run on Osmosis. They delegated large amounts on Osmosis, or they trusted in what I do and what I want to build. And so this is like how it went back then. And to be honest, like no outside money or no money from investors. That means, yes, of course, you can stick to your philosophy, to your vision. But this means also like it could be very hard at times staying in the active set on mainnets. And this is right now what we do. And this is all due to understanding from my point of view as well. So it's mostly not possible to really run high reliability and secure infrastructure in respect of powering a chain and not being visible. So you can do like you can do like a lot of infrastructure stuff and design infrastructure and continue like with maintaining the infrastructure, but then you do not have like really time for marketing, visibility, essentially visibility. And this is like a problem I have seen and learned like the hard way. And that is why now we at Validatus, we built a team around like this approach of operating a validator as one of the greatest challenges in the field of IT security.
So you mentioned problems with visibility, which I hear a lot from smaller validators. As in, how do you get your voice out there? How do you make sure delegators know who you are? What steps have you guys taken to try to, get visibility? Have you guys, focused on Twitter? Have you guys focused on community and are you active on Discords? What's your approach?
Sure. So to be honest, as a solopreneur, I didn't have this time to be visible on Twitter, to be visible on Discord, or to be visible in any really like channel where delegators are involved. So I was visible mostly on Discord validator channels, the validator channels like staying there, testing a lot, like what's going on the networks, reporting like, okay, do we have like a lot of peering problems, network stability problems, then taking approaches to stabilize like the network with providing more infrastructure, for example. And at that point, so in the very beginning of the founding, during founding Validatus, there was no visibility. And then I took this view of, I think, another kind of concept. And maybe it's a bit of unusual for taking this approach, but I onboarded a very young team and keep onboarding very young team members without any knowledge about blockchain or Cosmos related topics. And it's international. So the team is really like around the world. And this fresh views helped me as well to build a kind of knowledge management and knowledge management system that we at the Cosmos ecosystem need to understand what topics we should work on.
So you're sort of you're trying to understand what the major blockers are and sort of get them to the right party and help with fixing them or moving things forward. So this knowledge management base, what are your plans with it?
So right now, starting building this knowledge management system on from the Telegram community, then now from Discord community. This helps us like to provide the knowledge we at the team need, but this is what we want to build at the public good as well. This means for us that Validatus will try to publish all its knowledge, all topics, all problems related to Cosmos, to the Cosmos ecosystem on one platform, to provide like new members that want to look into the Cosmos ecosystem, where to start, what all this is about, what kind of problems we have, how to mitigate problems, and to have a knowledge management system at one place, but then open up and link them to the right places, to the communities.
So I guess the knowledge management system will contain a lot of information about how to work with validators, how to lock them down. Yes. So let's dive into these topics. Like, is there anything you think is particular or special about your approach to running validator nodes, or the shielding infrastructure like sentries?
Yes. Okay. All right. So I think a highly secure and reliable environment is really like essential for the success of the Cosmos ecosystem. And that means for us as well that we take approaches of IT, diversity in IT infrastructure. That means for us as well. So we should look out, not only host our infrastructure at big companies, at names like AWS, at Google Cloud, for example. So we should ship infrastructure like around the world we should really like have independent global infrastructure and attempt like if you want to those essentially those very prominent sites are how to put it they attempts like a lot of like external like interference, let's put it like this. And this means like for us, for example, we have approach running like in smaller like data centers around the world using as sitting in Germany. We have strong connections to German companies, so using for example Netcap, using Hetzner, Contabo around the world. They have data centers in Singapore, in Helsinki, in Germany, in the US as well. So and they have like telephone accessibility that is very like essential for us as well, wherever during the time. So we can pick up our phones and just like call out and they are around. And this is very essential to have like smaller data centers as well. So this is what I mean by independent global infrastructure. We should really look into this as well. Then we should understand with our own labs, and this is the approach we took, and I know how to run it, to understand what it really takes to run your own infrastructure in comparison to a data center, to have an environment that is very, very similar to data centers. So for uplink, it's very expensive. You can't do an uplink like uplink like in data centers. But a lot of other parts are not that expensive as someone would expect. So independent global infrastructure. Then from an approach of enterprise Linux. So why not running, if you think of IT diversity or infrastructure diversity, not only running like on the mainnet, on the network. I see like a lot of people like running like Ubuntu, for example. And what we do is like essentially running enterprise Linux-based systems for enterprise problems, let's say enterprise problems. On the long run, we have seen for decades that enterprise Linux is very stable, very secure, and from scalability, there's a high scalability approach as well. And this means that we run and love to run like Red Hat and Rocky Linux as well for enterprise-based systems. And when it comes then to the next problem of monitoring, we have to ensure a 24/7 monitoring. But we are now running as a small team, like around 50 servers around the world as well. And this means like, how do we ensure that the systems are running very smooth? And this took us to approach, we need a platform. We need a platform, a one-stop platform. This is where it kicks in. We have a security operating center. So essentially like a Kibana board with Elasticsearch, with all this infrastructure. And this is for us one-stop place. Every single log, everything that happens around in our infrastructure is monitored on one single platform. And we ship everything we need to know into this platform. And this is very essential as well. Then from that point, this means like we need to understand what kind of security are we looking at, like what kind of security level we need. So essential, for example, for us as well, understand you sign your kernel image, so that whatever happens, you can make sure with your own signature, the kernel image is not compromised. Yeah, right. And this is very essential as well to understand. Zero trust concepts like SSH certificates, also certificate authorities for the administrators to sign you at the authority sign the keys. You have the control of the whole infrastructure. You deploy in a second if someone is restricted from access as well, for example.
Before we hit other topics, I'm still interested in the sort of like Elasticsearch Kibana stack. So that's like if it's like an ELK stack, like a Logstash, which is sending all the logs to yes. Elasticsearch, which is indexing them. You guys have Kibana. I'm curious, do you guys also have alert rules that automatically ping someone if something appears in the Elasticsearch, or do you guys rotate or investigate on demand? Like, how does that work? How do you use the CM?
Yes. So essentially what we do, as you mentioned, so first of all, Logstash is like shipping all the logs we need. Whenever like a warning kicks in, so we have let's put it like self-healing mechanics. So essentially what happens if own scripting kicks in. This can be a simple example is like, okay, RPC node on a load balanced server is just like not available for whatever reasons. Like yourself on the Cosmos network, sometimes things like this unpruned nodes can happen. So we will see it. What the server is just like, oh, it's mentioning and just like saying, hello team, I'm here. I have a problem, but I will handle my problem. So I will just like report back in 10 minutes. And then, the system goes on with our scripting, self-healing kicks in, and then reporting back 10 minutes. So, and it says, hello. So I'm done. Then everything is fine. And if this loop kicks in and keeps kicking in, so someone like after an hour or two at least have to see what is wrong with this node. For example, this is a very, very simple approach. So this is what happens. So we have.
So when you say self-healing, can I dig into this? When you say self-healing, do you guys mean when you boot up a new image? Let's say you install Red Hat, you deploy like a Osmosis node. Let's say it's a full node, it's an RPC. In addition to that, you install some local monitoring scripts which check for the health of the system, and then try to do something based on stuff, so you don't have to walk into all of these problems and solve them manually. So you try to automate some of the solutions via these scripts. So these are your custom scripts.
Yes, this is custom. This is custom deployed, mainly Bash scripting and Python scripting. So every problem we have seen, like from the first run I have seen on mainnet, what problems can occur are solved completely on scripting and in an automated way. And the infrastructure and the server just like shipping the logs and say hello, and almost like a lot of problems are done. But this means we have like a straightforward change log every once a new deployment with kickstarting like the server infrastructure. And this is an ongoing process, whatever happens. And we find like every here and then new smaller stuff we handle. And especially to be honest, what we really look into, this is not that often. So Enterprise Linux comes shipped with secure enhanced Linux, cell Linux. So when warnings kick in, we really want to understand what happened on the server. So we shut down the server. It cuts up. We cut it from the network and try to understand what happened here. This happens once, and it was just like a user error, to be honest. So, but this, having this kind of security and Enterprise Linux as well, make us very confident in a way we understand what we do. And this is very nice to know for our team at least.
Mm-hmm. So I very much like this approach of essentially building up your value by identifying these problems and automating them, and then henceforth only focusing on the anomalies, on the new problems you guys haven't seen. So I mean, in my mind, I'm imagining like simple functionality would be like if disk space is becoming low and you guys provision disk space that you expected would work, then the script can go and prune the node, or you can try to reduce this usage somehow. Is that am I on the right track? Is that something the scripts would attempt to handle?
Yes, absolutely. This is like a very essential
basic
stuff.
case,
Yes, basic stuff. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. All of you can think like basic stuff is just like one of more complex stuff is like RPC endpoints. Like what we do, like we try to very hard try to reach our RPC endpoints and to test around like what kind of numbers would take our load balanced endpoints down, for example, with scripts as well, to really provide on the long run reliable services, for example. This is more approach where, more testing and loops in testing goes on, and then more like manually adjusting, and then in the end adjust the automation processes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So always, obviously, always try to do manual intervention first, get your experience, and then if you're confident there is a standardized, let's say, fix,
Yeah.
then you add this. Will this be part of the knowledge base that you guys are thinking of sharing out? Because these are definitely valuable insights, right? These are interesting
Yes, so
tools.
we will do it, and we hope by doing this, our company does not get down. So you give away like a lot of very valuable knowledge,
It is valuable. It is valuable, definitely.
and let's see how it goes.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, that'd be really great. And on that note, I think it's a good place to end the podcast. So thanks very much for coming on, Rami. It was
Thank
fun
you.
chatting.
Thank you so much for having us as well, Martin. Thank you.